Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host. I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and a co-author of the book Next Level Your Life. Today, I have a guest with me, Paul Hunter. He's from Centerville, Virginia. I've known this guy, 20 plus years. We met in 2003 at none other than a real estate conference, as most of you know over the years with these podcasts. But met Paul at an event. It was called the Peak Experience. And it was we connected. We were in a group of 10 people, small group, they called it. And we connected, and we've been in touch ever since. Me, Paul, and our friend Rob Foy, as the audience has heard a few weeks back. But anyway, so Paul Hunter's one of, he's got 4 children, married to his wife, Andrea. And we've been really good friends over a period of time. Thank you, Paul, for being here today.
Yeah, good to talk with you, Rob.
So, Paul, you've had quite the experience. You've had a lot of success in real estate early on, and it was about 7 years ago. Something happened to you. You want to share that? Share a little bit of that.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been, doing my real estate thing, and for many years now. I've been doing it for 22 years to be exact. And about 6 plus years ago. August 2017, I was diagnosed with head and neck cancer. And so that kind of, rocked my world a bit and changed things and sent me down a different path for probably the last 6 or 7 years now.
And when you say a different path, obviously your focus is elsewhere. It's on surviving and living. But how about mentally? What did that do for you?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting when you go through something like that. You watch movies and stuff, and you're watching a drama or something, and a doctor walks in and tells somebody they have cancer, and I always like, I wonder how I'd respond to that news. And I found out how I'd respond. The doctor walked in the office and said, actually, his exact words were, "I'm sorry to tell you, your life is you have cancer, and your life has changed forever." And so it's kind of hit you like a ton of bricks. You don't expect those words to come out of a doctor's mouth, and when it does, it kind of it is an opportunity to see how you will respond and what you're going to do in the moment. Luckily, my wife was there with me, and at the moment I just kind of turned white and just kind of, because again, I'm like, how do you respond when somebody hits you with that news and not knowing even what that means? What I didn't know what head and neck cancer was or what that meant, or you're going to live, you're going to die. So all these things just run through your mind in a million miles an hour. And I just kind of like blacked out, got white. And my wife kind of took over from there and listened to the doctors. It's 2 doctors. And basically they just send you out the door and handed me 2 cards and said, you need to get an oncologist and a radiologist. And, I'm sorry. And they send you out the door right from the test center, from the biopsy place that I was at. And then get in the car, drive home, and you're like, what just happened? And so it at first it's a devastating blow, and then you just don't know, and you become your own advocate, and you learn, and you take one day at a time, and there's a lot of tears and a lot of worry and stress and all the other things that come with it. So that's what I mean by it kind of rocks your world and it changes your perception. Now, obviously, a lot of things happen between that point and moving forward, and that's kind of what the whole thing was about.
Yeah, so I picture, like you talk about, you see in the movies or on television, whatnot. I picture them telling you that, and then you're sitting there in a daze, and he's talking, but you're not hearing him. And he's like this.
I heard the first words he said, I'm sorry to have to tell you this. You have cancer. Your life has just changed. And I
And
was,
then and then like
and then I was like, yeah. Then I kind of got just ghost white
yeah.
and just sat there, Um, and then it didn't really hit me, I mean, it hit me, but it hit me hard, when you get in your car and you're going home and you're thinking, hey, now what the heck, now
Yeah.
what do you do?
And so, like, I like Paul, for the audience to know, Paul's a devout Catholic, and we've known each other again for 20 plus years now. And so, my question or thought would be, when that hits, right, when you get those words, like, what's like your first question to God, or is there a question to God in that moment?
Yeah, a lot of people say, because it's the other thing you see in movies. Again, you kind of know these things by just experiencing through other people if you haven't gone through it yourself. And in the case of me, it would just be through shows and this and that. And like one of the things you see a lot of times when somebody gets some bad news is they blame people, right? Or they blame, like, why me? Why me? I never once thought, why me? That's one thing, is from that moment, I never thought, well, why is this happening to me? I kind of just was under the more of the question of, why not me? I mean, something's got to happen to somebody. Why not? It does happen to people every day, right?
Yeah.
And I never question God. I do have a strong faith. And obviously, my wife and I pulled over. I think we went to this little park before we went home because, we didn't want our kids were younger then. I was less than 2 weeks. I was dropping my oldest off at college for the first time. And everyone else, and then I have 4 kids and the 3 younger ones. So we didn't want to go home and, be crying or, they obviously would know something. So we pulled over and prayed about it. And then just said, okay, let's go.
Yeah. How are we going to beat this thing, right?
Yeah. And so you just kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a lot of you're pretty down for the first few days, at least. I mean, you're down throughout the whole process, but it's suffering. So there's, and I think you and I talked about this, and anytime you go through suffering, nobody wants to wish they go through suffering. And you wouldn't want to wish it on your worst enemy. However, there's good in it. There's good there. There's good. And it was just a matter of, as you're going through it, recognizing that good and recognizing why it's happening. I do believe God has a plan, and it's his plan, not mine. And I accept his will. And so I accepted it at that moment. And I said, okay, if I get through this, great. If I don't, then, well, I had a good run. And I did get through it. I'm still here.
God, right?
Yeah. So I am cancer free.
You're here today, yeah. Right? So we know you got through it.
And it's easier to look back, and obviously in hindsight, everything's easier, but even in the moment, that's kind of was how I approached things. I wasn't, like I said, it wasn't why me. It's just, okay, I'm just, where is the good in this? Where's the good? And try to find it.
Where you said what the why was. You want to share that? What was the why?
The why of what?
You said why you got it, or why you got it.
Oh, no, I don't know why I got it. I don't mean why. I mean, no, I mean, I just said that I didn't question why I got it.
Okay.
In other words, I didn't blame. Some people blame God when they get something. Why me? Why me?
Right.
And that just wasn't. I never had that attitude.
Was there a purpose that you found through it?
Yeah. So, one of the biggest lesson I learned through the whole process was that there's joy in suffering. That there is joy. It is, like I said, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, because as you go through it, I remember the surgeon, one of the doctors told me, she looked at me and she said, we're going to get you through this. You're going to go through living hell for about 6 to 12 months. Jeez. And then we're going to fix you. We're gonna solve this problem. And I said, okay, I can go through hell for 6 or 12 months. That's doable. As long as you cure me, then I'm good with that. Now going through the hell, that's where the suffering is, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But there's joy there, because so throughout the process, I recognized how unbelievably great people are. When you don't have something and something hitting you in a life or death situation like that, you don't take the time. Most people don't take the time to recognize people for their humanity. You really don't. And the greatest joy I got out of that, I mean, I would cry tears of joy all the time. I mean, I'm not a crier. I don't cry. My kids say I never seen cry except it. But during that time, I cried all the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily from the suffering, which some of it was, but it was from the fact that I recognized how nice people were to me, like how people would reach out, like you yourself. I met you, and you met me up, I think one time at, John Hopkins, when I was up there for to get a second opinion, and you came down while I was going through chemo and this and that. I mean, so you see those things, and for whatever reason, I saw them at a much, much deeper level than I would have in my everyday life. So like it hit, and there's so many instances of those, like, people come out of the woodwork and reach out to you and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. You talk about some people, they get cancer and it hurts their faith. Right. So they'll end up blaming God, or they get mad, people, whether it's cancer or divorce or whatever it might be, people go through hard times in life. They sometimes take it out on they lose faith. They lose faith as a result of that, out of what they're going through. And to me, man, I never felt closer to God. So I never wanted that feeling to leave. So while I had cancer and I was sick, and I was very sick, and I was, it was a long drawn out process, and didn't know what was going to happen. And you go through massive amounts of stress and anxiety, waiting for your next PET scan and what it's going to show, and this and that. So that goes on for a long time. But, part of me didn't want it to ever leave, because I did not want to go back to the way things were. I wanted to be in that moment. You're like really in the moment when you have something like that going on. You can't help but be in the moment. And
well, you say you don't want to go back to the way things were. You mean the way Paul was before this happened?
Not necessarily the way I was. I don't, I was never a bad person or anything like that. But the way I saw people, the way I experienced people, I think I've always, had an attitude of gratitude, and I kept the gratitude journals and all that, but nothing hit me like the gratitude that came while I was going through this and after it. Like I'd see people and I'd be sharing this experience with them or whatever, and the gratitude was so great, it would make me cry tears of joy, right in front of the people. And that is a feeling that is special, and that I didn't want it to leave. And to be honest with you, it kind of does, over time, I think. And that's what I mean when I say there's joy in suffering. I think that's God's plan. I think his plan was to bring me through that. And he did bring me through it. And I did survive, and I'm a cancer survivor now. And I think his plan was to show me that how good people can be, and how deeply you can feel, whether it be feeling miserable or feeling the highs of of feeling people's love, you know. So that I think was the biggest outcome of it, is that you get that. Now, it hasn't completely all left, of course. I think I'm a better person for it. I think I'm more appreciative of things and people around me. But still that intense feeling does kind of fade with suffering. Now, again, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to,
Yeah.
I don't want it to come back, but
So like you said, it kind of does leave, but like, so when do you have a different perspective, or do you see people differently now than you did before, even though some of that has left? Does that make sense, what I'm asking you?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, my relationship with God and my faith, is, it was strong before. I would say it's stronger
Yeah.
now. That's for sure. My relationship, with others around me, I think are stronger and better, with my kids and, my wife, and, so I appreciate people and what they do for me at a deeper level than I did before. Um, but of course you do lose some of that. Some of it is just going through all the pain and suffering you go through. There's a lot of up highs and lows, and so that brings out some of the joy, I think, in the high moments. So some of that's going to go away. I mean, you can't kind of live on that roller coaster forever.
Right. Right.
But ultimately, I think that the lessons learned stay with you. They stay
Yeah.
with you.
I mean, so people would say, you've said it several times today, like, there's joy in suffering. And I'm sure there's people out there that says, well, what the heck does that mean? Right. And I know you said from the lessons that you learned, some of these highs that you have, but if somebody just directly said, Paul, what do you mean there's joy in suffering? Because joy is not happiness. Joy it's a different feeling or different experience. And, because you're not happy that you're suffering, but you're feeling joy. Can you explain a
No,
little bit of difference that
yeah,
that might
yeah.
be?
So when you're suffering, you're miserable. Okay, there are
Yeah.
times where I'm just literally you're on death's door, and you're miserable. You do not feel good. You don't. Um, Things are not good. However, little things. I mean, I guess the best way to explain it is, that you know you realize how much people care, because when you're going through your daily life, people aren't reaching out to you every day and saying, hey Rob, I'm praying for you today. I mean, something, or they're sending you a video, or trying to lift your spirits the way they do when you're suffering.
Yeah.
Right? They don't. So when you're suffering, that the intensity of that attention, and I didn't ask for the attention. I didn't, you
Right.
know, I didn't, at first, I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't even want anybody to know, and I didn't tell anybody, but, people find stuff out, and then I hear from folks. And I mean, it could be some people that you'd never expect from. That's what I mean by you. Some people, by when you get a text from somebody, or you get a voicemail, or you get an email, or you get a phone call from somebody you would not expect to, and they make a connection to you, and you hear in their voice their level of concern and care, and that just makes you feel really good. It makes
Yeah.
you feel good because you see humanity at its best, and sometimes you overlook people's humanity. You think, you watch the news, you watch this or that, and humanity doesn't look so great, a lot of times. But when something bad happens, people rally and they come to you and they lift you up. And that is a phenomenal thing, So the one thing advice I would give everybody, because I wasn't this way before this, because I was kind of like scared of cancer, people that are sick or whatever. I just didn't know what to say to them. What do you say to somebody when you go, so and so's got cancer? Okay, well, you feel bad, you pray privately and stuff like that for them, that they're healed. But what's more important is that you take the next step and you actually act on it. As scared as you are, as weird as you may think it may seem, call the person up, send them a text, write them a note. I would get notes like, it's crazy how many notes and stuff I would get, or prayer cards, or mass intentions, or all kinds of different things from people I would never expect it.
Yeah.
But those acts of kindness got me through it. They got me through it. And people don't realize that they can do that, but they can. They can do it for people they barely know. They could do it for, if you know somebody who's sick or somebody who's going through a hard time, just reach out, because sometimes you don't want to, because you don't want to be that guy or feel weird, or you're scared, or you're fearful, or whatever emotion. Just be vulnerable and reach out. And who cares? I can guarantee you this: they're going to appreciate it. They're not going to be like, what are you doing calling me and making me talking about my cancer, or talking about whatever's going on in my life? They don't, I don't think anybody's going, that's the response you'll get. The response is going to be, thank you. People, they will thank you profoundly from the bottom of their heart at a level they never would have otherwise.
Yeah. That's great, man. Paul, that's really intense. And I appreciate you sharing that. The question I have, like you sit there, you said that, people were lifting you up and people you didn't even expect to lift you up. So how has that transferred from that, people lifting you up? What does Paul do anything now? Or does he feel like, okay, it's my opportunity to lift other people up?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Will you do that?
Absolutely. If it's one thing that I've drastically changed in my life. If I hear of anybody, friends, acquaintances, that's going through a hard time or that's sick in some way, I reach out to them and let them know, hey, I'm praying for you. And not just once, but I constantly will ping them a little text. Hey, I prayed, just, said rosary for you today, did this, that. It's great to pray for people on your own. It's better to pray for them and tell them you're praying for them, and to tell them you're thinking about them, and to ask them, is there anything you need? So most people say, I mean, so many people, let me know if you need anything, right? But people didn't even have to ask it, because of course the answer to that is, nah, I'm good, don't worry about it.
Yeah, right.
Nobody ever says, yeah, come do this or that for me. It usually is, no, I'm good, thank you though. The better just to do it, right? So like, for example, people would just come by and give me like I had some religious relics that would sit there with me in the room that I'd be, I kind of had a chair and in the family room, and I had a statue of the Mother Mary that was from my church, that was passed around to different people, from Fatima, that was on a pedestal that sat in the middle of the room. And then there was like a relic from a saint, and different things like that, a prayer of this from this person or that person, a card, and those kind of things would just show up. And when they didn't, nobody asked if they could do it. They just did it. So to answer your question, I guess that's what I mean about things I would do for people, because I don't question now, what should I do? Or I don't run away from that because I'm afraid of what they're going to think, or what should I do, and not knowing what to do. I just do something, just even if it's just say, you're going to get through this, and words of encouragement or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I had I was going to ask you a question. So was it hard for you? Like you get cancer, now everybody wants to help you. I know you're a guy that doesn't like, you want people always to helping you left and right. So was it hard to receive early on?
Yeah. I didn't want, I would tell people, no, I'm everybody would ask, because so many people do say that, is there anything I can do? Can I help? And I would usually say no. And like some people would say stuff like, can I drive you to, because I'd have to go to get radiation, chemo and stuff like every day. Some people would say, hey, can I drive you? And my wife would have to drive because I wasn't able to drive. And people would just ask me at first, can I drive you to go to do this or that? And I'd be, oh, no. I didn't want to bother anybody. Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a bother, even people like my sister or whoever it might be. And then I started realizing that I'm actually gifting them by letting them do it. And so I started to let people, I'd say, sure, if you could give me a ride to the hospital tomorrow, that would be greatly appreciated. And so like some of, my guy friends or local around here where I live and stuff, they would do that, or somebody would say, hey, can I come by and sit with you? Because, you're at chemo for like 8 hours, and, can I come by and sit? And at first I'd be like, no, I'm good. Thanks though, because I didn't want to put anybody out. And then I realized people want to do it. People want to do it because not only they want to do it for me, but it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they're actually helping me. And they really are. So I think, so the answer to the question is, yeah, at first it's like, no, I just said no to everything. And then I started realizing that it was a gift to them to say yes. So I started letting people help me.
Yeah, so I think it brings up the point there, like you said, there's joy in suffering, and you felt your joy, and there's the point to be made, I think, is that when people want to help others, it brings them joy, it brings them some peace and satisfaction that they would help others. And when we say no to them, we're actually stealing away their opportunity to feel that joy, because maybe our pride doesn't want to receive or accept anything, as though like we're incapacitated, we can't help ourselves. And so what I'm hearing you say is allow people to experience their own joy in helping others.
Yeah, it does. And if you do things for others, it always makes you happy. It brings you joy, right?
Oh yeah, because they say the giver an act of kindness often feels the same or receives the same amount of joy, if not more, than the recipient themselves.
Probably more, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess that would be the other piece of advice: let people help you if you're going through a hard time. It makes them not only feel good, but it allows them to feel like they're participating in some way. And it's interesting, the more of that I got, which I got a lot of that, people reaching out, it made me, I wasn't even concerned about myself. I was concerned about other people. So like, for example, I found I'd be sitting in, strapped to this radiation table every day, in this mask and this whole setup that was just, not fun. And to get through it, I found I would sit there and I'd say the rosary in my head, but I would say it for someone else.
Yeah.
So because it wasn't for me to get better. I was doing it for them, because there's so many people that were helping me. I felt guilty that all these people were praying for me. So I was like, felt like I needed to pray for them,
Would that be an example of offering that suffering?
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would offer it up for them. And that is the ultimate time to do it, when you really are suffering.
Yeah.
It's easy to offer it up when you're feeling great. Offer up
right.
rosary for somebody or a prayer for somebody. But when you are literally miserable, when typically you would want to pray for yourself and that you feel better, and you just pray for someone else, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, I'll switch gears a little bit here. So do you feel like that you have this new lease on life from that experience?
I don't know if I'd say it's a new lease on life, as much as yes and no. Yes, that I've learned stuff that I never would have known or learned, and
Right.
that makes you a better person from growing in that way. But you still got life stuff that comes at you.
Oh, I get it.
So it's not, life still happens, and people move on. And that's that thing I said. It's like, it's the gift that suffering gives you. You don't want it to go away.
Yeah.
But you can't suffer for your whole life, or you'd be it'd be pretty bad.
But do you find yourself?
I think it's a two-edged sword. I'd say it's the answer to your question is like yes and no, really.
Yeah. But do you find yourself, maybe you weren't doing things before because, I don't know, maybe you're afraid to do them, or you're worried about other people think that you're doing?
No doubt it's changed me. There's no doubt. I mean, like I said, I want to give to others. I want to be there if somebody's, I'm not afraid to reach out to people. You're not so much afraid to die as I was before, right?
Paul, I was going to ask you that question. Are you afraid to die?
So you kind of come to terms with that, and you're like, you know what? I'm okay. I'm okay to go.
Yeah.
It's okay. The only ones you don't want to go for are all these people that are praying for you and care about you.
And your family, right?
Your family and your kids. But other than that, hey, there's a better place to be.
Yeah, it's
so you definitely are way less fearful of dying when you go through something hard like that. So you emotionally have already gone there. You already went there.
This might sound like a crazy. There's a couple things I want to hit here. It sounds like a morbid way to ask this question. Is there is there an excitement or enthusiasm to get to that place at a later date of dying?
Nobody everybody wants to get to heaven. Nobody wants to die to get there, right? So I have a strong faith. So how people do this stuff without faith is just blows my mind. I don't know how anybody get through it. I really don't. I don't have any idea how somebody get through these things without a strong faith. But so, there's a joyful anticipation of getting to heaven,
right?
But you also want to experience this life as best you can before that happens. So if something was to happen, nobody, I'm not saying, I would never say I'd want to go, but I'd be okay with it.
Yeah. Because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, you've had that experience, and I've told people recently, like for me, I love being in nature, and I've been to the Grand Canyon a couple of times, Sedona, Yosemite, and Yellowstone, and I experienced God and heaven in that, right? And guy asked me one time, he said, what was your experience like when you went down the Grand Canyon? And I said, if this is just a little piece of what heaven's like, I can't wait to get there. And it sounds crazy, but I have, like, maybe you through your suffering and going through that, you're like, man, I know there's a better place to be. And I guess the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm like, I'm excited to see what I'm going to see when I get there, assuming I'm going to get there. And I'm not like, it sounds crazy, but I even hesitate to say it, but I'm not really afraid of the dying piece. I don't want to go tomorrow. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm excited of what's going to be there. Again, assuming I get there, but which means I need to do good now. I need to be. It's not.
The key is you got to always be ready to go. Because you never know when you're going to go, man. You just don't know. That day that I went to the doctor, I didn't know it was good. And the doctor was right. His comment was, "Your life has just changed," and it's like, yeah, it does. You don't know that the day before that was your life was just going to change, and then it does. Same thing with dying. You got to be prepared so that if that time comes, you are in a good place to get to heaven.
Yeah, and you're right with him.
I try to live my life that way.
Yeah,
so that if it does come one day, and I don't know what's coming because we don't know, that I'm ready for it. And then you do have that anticipation, and you can have that go peacefully, I guess,
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to one of the things I was getting ready to say earlier is you were talking about, like, you might do things that you wouldn't do before, but like, and this is funny. You probably don't even know I saw this, but I never knew Paul as the guy to be like riding on the bike with a camera on TikTok doing a video.
You saw my TikTok?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's a Paul Hunter I've never seen before, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, is that something Paul did because he's keeping up
Yeah,
with
you
the
gotta,
times of technology, or is
yeah,
that like
you're
Paul would
just
have done that
having
before?
fun. You gotta live in the moment, man. You
Right,
gotta live in the
right.
moment. Live in the moment. You gotta live in the moment, and appreciate everything that's going on around you. And that's the only way you can appreciate things going on around you. Because if
Yeah.
you're worried about the past or you're worried about what's coming, you ain't gonna appreciate anything. And that, I think, is what suffering does. It forces you into the moment. It forces you. There is nothing but that moment. And that
Uh-huh.
moment, and that's where you can connect with the love that's around you, and the
Yeah.
joy that surrounds you, and in the moment. And if you're not focused on it, you're gonna miss it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. But be ready for those moments and catch them while you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to do. And you don't have to suffer to do it. You don't have to
Yeah.
suffer.
So, Paul, how much more chiseling you think God's got going on for you here the rest of your life?
How much more chiseling? Oh man, every day is a battle. There's something going on. You're never too old to learn new tricks, and to learn new things. So, I recently just changed after 22 years in resale, in sales, and in real estate, into working for a builder now. So, I mean, that to me is getting chiseled, right? I'm trying
Yeah.
something new, try something different, and um, getting outside my comfort zone. But it's something I've been doing for 22 straight years, and now I'm doing something different within the builder world, and that's in the professionally speaking. But I try to get chiseled just by going to mass as much as I can as well. And that
Yeah.
certainly does, improve my spirits.
There you go. And then I guess one more question I got before you go here is, so like, how do you have conversations, or what conversations do you have with your kids about this stuff of you going through there? Or do you have any of these conversations with your kids?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. That was a tough thing when you go through it. That's the bit that one of the toughest things, when you see your kids and they really don't know how to respond or act when something like that is happening. They're confused. They don't have the capacity to really understand it. Um, and now they do, and they bring it up, and they'll be like, because it when you have somebody, family member, and everybody knows somebody, there's no doubt about that. But when it's your own kids, and it's your mother or father that are sick, I think they learn a lot. I mean, literally, they walk that journey with me, and on the last day of my uh, treatment, you gotta, in the hospital, you ring a bell, a gong thing, right? And they
Yeah.
all took off school and watched, came in and rang the bell with me, and they learn. I think they learned how they watched, right? So they don't really communicate stuff, but they saw all these people come out of the woodwork. They saw all these dinners being made for the family, which I couldn't eat, which is kind of ironic, but they did, and they saw the cards, they saw uh, all of the kindness that was thrown at us, and I'm sure that has an impact. I'm sure it has
Yeah.
an impact.
That's
So
awesome, man.
yeah, so we still every now and then talk about it, but we don't really talk it. I mean, I don't. This is the most I've talked about this that happened, and because it's not something I really talk about, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
I feel it, but I don't necessarily talk about it.
Well, I think it's good to get it off your chest every now and then, or maybe not.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good because it brings me back to that
Yeah.
feeling. It brings me back to that feeling,
That's
and
good, man.
it's a good feeling.
Well, I appreciate you your time today. I appreciate you sharing all your feelings, your vulnerability. And I mean, one more question I do have to ask you: Do you cry more now than you did beforehand,
Uh,
or are you back to I'm not a crier?
I love to cry if I
Yeah,
can every
yeah,
now and then. You give me a good movie or something, and maybe I'll shed a tear or two. But I'm not crying at the same level as I was
Right,
then. I
right,
gotta
right,
be
right.
honest.
I was just, just want to check
Yeah.
in with you on that.
No, but crying's a great thing.
Yeah.
If you can cry every day and laugh every day, it's a good day.
Yeah, it's what Valvano said. If you could think, laugh, and
Yeah,
cry every
right.
day, you've had a great day. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
love
And
it.
he's right. He's right
Yeah,
on, man. And he was
yeah,
right in the thick of it when he said that. So he probably was doing that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. So, Paul, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, whether it's to talk about this experience and maybe they need help or guidance or mentorship getting through that, or maybe somebody wants to buy some new construction in Centerville, Virginia,
Yeah.
how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So feel free to email me or call me. My email address is the Hunter Group at me.com, me.com. Feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm happy to, if anybody's going through something, especially in the cancer world, I'd love to talk to you. So because I know the emotions that you're going through. And the folks that reached out to me that had been through it, they relate the best. So feel
Yeah.
free to reach out. Happy to help any way I can.
That's awesome, Paul, man. I'm grateful for you, man. I'm grateful for our 20 plus year friendship. And, I'm just, I'm looking forward to hanging tight with you for another 20 plus years.
All right, buddy.
All good,
Absolutely.
man. Until
All right.
next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.